So I want to ask you, I'm not going to be telling you my story today. I'm going to be talking to you about your next story. But before I start, I want to ask you a question here. How many of you in this beautiful city have seen a sunrise? How many of you have seen a sunset? When? Anytime. Anytime. Right. In your life. Have you all seen a sunrise and a sunset? None of you have ever seen a sunrise or a sunset. Ever. Ever. Do you know why? Because there's no such thing. Because there was this guy called Copernicus who in 1514 came out with this brand new theory that the earth was not the center of the universe. And until that time, our belief systems based on the church of the time was that the earth was at the center of the universe. And therefore, we are technically able to have a sunrise and sunset. But think about it. If the sun is the center, we go around the sun, it is an earth rise and an earth set, not a sunrise or a sunset. But it was built into our thinking system, and it was built into the way that our poetry worked, and it was built into everything that we did. And the poets would say, "Thy look beautifuleth in the morning as the sun riseth, and thy look beautifuleth in the evening as the sun setteth." And so it became part of our language, and so we all believe till today that we've seen a sunrise and seen a sunset. There is a clock there, 16 minutes and 55 seconds. There is a clock. 24 hours a day. Why 24 hours a day? Why 24? Sorry? Earth's rotation, but why 24 hours? Close. Close? 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 Easy to divide by 2, 3, and 6. That's one theory, and we're going to go there. But you understand that the number 24 is an absolute random number, and there are two theories on why the number came about. The first was that the ancient Egyptians, who had the sundial, looked at their fingers and had 10 digits on their fingers and said, we're going to divide the day into 10 digits, 10 things divided by 10. So there are 10 hours in a day. The night must be the same, so there's 20. And then some guy came running up and said, but what about the sunrise and the sunset? And so they added one on either side. The other theory goes that at the time, in the shooks of ancient Egypt, that they divided everything by 12 because it was easy to divide by 2, 3, and 4. It was an easily divisible number. And so they used 12, which was a function of how they traded in their markets. And so 12 became the number, either 10 plus 2 or 12, which was the way that they traded in the markets. And then they times that by 2 and they got 24. It's an absolutely random number, and even our understanding of whether it's this theory or that theory is unknown till today, is which one is right. And if you go onto the internet and you look it up, you will see that no one really de facto knows why we have 24 hours in a day. Yet all of us live by this thing, our chronometer, which is divided by 12 or 24, depending on if you've got a digital watch or you've got an analog watch such as mine. So we live in constructs that we don't even understand and never ever question. I come from an entrepreneurship background, and I have spent the last 17 years working with entrepreneurs, over 10,000 entrepreneurs. And my life is devoted to trying to understand why 96% of businesses fail and what the 4% do differently in order to succeed. And one of the things that is very patently obvious for me is that there is a disbelief about what is going on in the world. That successful entrepreneurs do not buy human-made constructs, and therefore are allowed to reinvent themselves again and again. They can ask different questions because they don't believe the constructs that have been fed to them by their grandfather and their father, and they are certainly not the ones that are going to try and believe that they too have a real construct. But I want to do a quick experiment with you. Here is a typical scene across the world, across the developing world. Let me ask you this question. This is a thought experiment. If I was your evil godfather, and I had a little wand here, here's my wand, and I went, ka-ching, you lose everything, everything you have. You can keep your clothes, but you lose your car, you lose your home, you lose everything that you have. You only have got two things. You've got your mental attitude, and you have got your network. How long before you exit from that to that situation to come back to where you are now, round about your equivalent wealth today? So if you're worth R1 million, then you'll be worth R1 million. If you're worth 10 million rand, 10 million rand. If you're worth R1 billion, you're worth R1 billion again. How long before you get from this situation here back to where you are? The average, I'm not going to ask you now because we don't have time. We don't have these 24 hours divided by 60 things. But the average when I ask an audience is 4 to 5 years. And then I ask the question, if Bill Gates landed in your life, how long before he would become a billionaire? And the answer is the same amount of time. That the average audience member will say about 4 to 5 years. And you lose everything that you have, and you just land up either in that situation or in your life. So it's got to ask the question is, why does Bill Gates become successful and be a dollar billionaire again, and why can't you? That's excluding all the dollar billionaires in the room. What is the difference between you and Bill Gates? And that is how he perceives his world. And what I'm putting to you today is, if you are going to reinvent yourself, there are two things that you have got to do. The first thing, wherever this clicker goes, is to realize that it's hard to unsee. So, can any of you see a cow in there? Put up your hand if you can see a cow. Right, it's going up, going up, going up, more. I want to see. I'm going to try and show you here. There's the eye, there's an ear, there's a snout, there's the back. How many of you can see now? Right. How many of you can't see the cow? Honestly, few. Okay, let's go for it again. It's looking like this. There's no legs, there's an eye, there's an ear, and this is sort of the side of the cow. Can you see it now? You can? Right? How many put up your hands who can see the cow? All right. Now, for the rest of your life, you will not be able to see that cow. This is called the Dallenbach cow, and I'm going to just show you here. Okay, you see the cow immediately. You see the cow immediately. There, immediately, you see the cow. You will never not be able to see the cow again. And this is your relationship with your reality. Is once you've seen your reality, once you've bought into 24 hours in a day, once you've bought into sunrise and sunset, it's very hard for you to unsee that as part of your reality. But it's also equally difficult for you to see. So what do you see here when you see this little boy? What do you see? What do you see here with this little boy? Tell me what you see. Does anyone volunteer here? What do you see? Fear. Sorry? Sad. What did you? Anxiety. Okay. So as you look at that, you see the sad and anxious little boy who's fearful. But now open up the frame on that reality, and now what do you see? Okay, now you anxious, now you fearful. It's like your whole reality has changed because we've opened up the frame on this picture. And so too with your reality about how you perceive life. Understand that your relationship with reality is the same as what we've just seen now. Is when you change the frame, you change your relationship with that reality. And what happens if the frame opened up again for a third time and you saw an ammunition dump and all these kids were going to go and throw these guns in an ammunition dump? Now you change, you change your relationship with that reality again. Same information, I just now start changing the discourse between you and that picture, you and that reality. I change the discourse between the two of you, and you change your relationship with reality. And what happens now if I then tell you that these kids were off to fight the Assad regime, their fathers have been killed? Then you change your relationship with them again, unless you have happened to be pro the Assad regime, and you would change your relationship with it again. So your whole relationship with reality as you move into your next phase is a function of how you see your world. And what successful entrepreneurs do is they understand, whether they expressly understand or inadvertently or unconsciously understand, that they control their reality through their discourse with it, through how they open and close the frame, and how they understand that they are completely addicted to reality. And they look around the world and they see all these addictions to reality, which now are not so true, that you don't have to do this and you don't have to do that. I was just telling the story now this morning about the fact that I own a school in Johannesburg where from grade 0 to 12. And I'm saying to the school that we are not a sports school. Let's do a school without any sport, only exercise. And these people are freaking out. They say, how can you do that? My parents went to a school that had sport. My grandparents went to a school that had sport. How can we do that? And I said to them, you know, if you were in Northwest Airlines many, many years ago in a board meeting when they said, let's not give food, let's charge for food, the same reaction would have been in that room. Because there is a reality that you perceive in your mind, but there is another reality that somebody else sees. And the successful entrepreneurs understand that there is no such thing as reality. It is their understanding of the reality that they want to create. So as you move into, and I'm trying to time this for the 3 minutes here because I don't want to be the one who goes. As you move into the next part of your journey, I want you to understand, first of all, that there is no such thing as an entrepreneur. When there's many, many theoretical books on entrepreneurship, what they call the psychological typology of an entrepreneur. And every single entrepreneurship guru will stand up and tell you that you have to be this and you have to be that and you have to have passion and you have to, all these things, and we are born and we are not, this way, we're not made, and everyone's got a point of view around entrepreneurship. And we subscribe to whatever we've seen some guru stand up on a stage similar to this and talk about what is or isn't a successful entrepreneur. And we go, oh, I'm not that, therefore I'm not an entrepreneur. But going back to the research around entrepreneurship, they show unequivocally that there is no such thing as an entrepreneur. Can you believe that? There is no such thing. And what they mean by that is that you cannot say that if you've got X characteristics, therefore you are an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are tall, they are short, they are extrovert, they are introvert. Entrepreneurs come from wealthy backgrounds, from poor backgrounds. They are born into businesses and then reinvent them, and they are born out of businesses that have failed, as we've heard here today. They are all different. And as you move into this next phase of your life, the most important thing that you need to do is disconnect from any reality, any assertion by anyone what is true and what is untrue. And that will give you the freedom to go out there and ask the right questions for you at your point in life. And that's where I want to end it. I'm 48 seconds ahead of the question.
What we've decided to do is to skip the questions. So sorry if we've thrown you a little bit.
No problem. I thought there was a question. You got no question. Does anyone have one question here? One question. Yes? Tell us about the school. 30 seconds on why I got into school. I run a business called Raiz, which is effectively a private for-profit incubator. We work with over 500 businesses. And what I was complaining about was the fact that that the level of entrepreneurship in South Africa was so bad. One day I heard myself whining, and I said, well, instead of me whining, let me do something about it. So I bought a school in Johannesburg from grade 0 to grade 12. I got a woman in from Oxford, and we have built a framework of how to embed an entrepreneurship mindset from grade 0 to grade 12. I stole a vice principal, became principal from one of the very good private schools who was doing a PhD in education and was open-minded, and we've started to embed entrepreneurship in every single subject, from maths, it's in the maths, it's in the English, it's in every single subject. It is not a separate thing, and where you have market day, which is also a bullshit thing where the parents actually pay and you sell to the most popular person sells. The way that entrepreneurship is done in this country, in the schooling system, is wrong in my opinion. I don't buy it, and so I am attempting a different journey and a different thinking around that. And so far so good, and we're looking to buy other schools and do the same thing as well. All right, I will end it right. Yes, how much time? I've still got time. Yeah.
How do you make a profit?
How do I make a profit in what? In Raiz school? I have many models. I don't call myself an incubator, I call myself a prosperator. Okay? Because if you look at most of the businesses that are in Raiz, they are prosperous. So once again, I looked at how people thought about the industry, and incubation connotes weakness and illness. So it's about weak, ill things that you then help. And when I looked at that, that's not a label that I would like to be given as an entrepreneur, that I'm in an incubator. So we looked at the majority of our business were actually prosperous. They were making profit, and some were millionaires, and I certainly didn't want them to be in an incubator. So we started thinking about the word prosperator. How do we make money? Number one, we have an equity model and a profit share in that, and we make money on the one division. Second, we do enterprise and supply development, skills development, and SED on the BE scorecard for large corporates. Number three, we do major projects for governments around. We're in Angola, we're in Tanzania, and we charge a project fee to run major projects. Number four, we sell product. We're all selling physical product out there. So we have various models of income, and there's many more. But I didn't subscribe to the fact that I'm an incubator, therefore I'm in a box, and therefore this is the way that I'm supposed to make money. Thank you.